And we don't need the Military Commission Act, which permits torture and secret prison, and the threat to us losing the right of habeas corpus. What are we doing to ourselves? Some of those rights have been around for 800 years. We need to stop that trend. We have become a nation that has started wars. I mean, we've been involved when we shouldn't have for a good many years, but we literally started this war. Nobody threatened us, nobody invaded us, nobody shot anything at us, and they didn't even have what we thought they had. But why should we even go after a country that might get a weapon or has a weapon? The Soviets had 40,000 of them, and we didn't have to fight them. And at the same time, now they're getting ready to spread the war. There's a bunch of them in Washington who want to go into Iran, which would be insane. We don't need to go bombing Iran. We went into Iraq, partially oil was important, but you know, oil back then when we went into Iraq was $27 a barrel. Now it's nearly $100 a barrel. So the purpose is always backfire. There's so much negative consequences of what we do, and we should go cautiously. We should, there are other ways to solve these problems. Just as things worked out better in Vietnam after we left, they can very well work out better in Iraq. They say, well, no, there'll be chaos if we leave Iraq. What do we have over there now? Chaos. So, but Americans are being killed and we're going bankrupt. So I think there's every opportunity in the world. The people who say that it will be chaotic and we have to stay are the very individuals who swore that if we go over and all the threat that we would find and the weapons we would find, and it would be a cakewalk and would pay it by their oil. None of that has happened, yet now we're listening to them, or so many in the media and other candidates are listening and say, aha, we can't do it because those individuals said it's going to be a mess. But it's a mess there, and I just think it's really time to come home and reassess those values as soon as possible. Political action should have a precise purpose. For me, all political action should be directed toward protecting individual liberty. Nothing more complicated than that. Right. In that regard, we had a fairly good guideline, and that was our Constitution. And if we'd have followed it, individual liberty would have been protected. But today, our Constitution doesn't mean a whole lot, because not only does the Congress ignore it, the executive branch ignores it, and the judicial branch ignores it. And it's such abuse, so we've lost the rule of law. The executive branch for decades now has used that branch to write law. Those are the agency that writes regulations. And you know, there is one agency that I really don't think should be writing regulation, because I don't think they should even exist, and that's the IRS, and we'd like to get rid of that. The lack of respect for the Constitution is really one of our most serious problems. The executive branch, and much more so with this administration, has taken advantage of this abuse. For instance, executive orders should be used very, very cautiously in a very, very narrow sense, never to legislate. So I have no plans, if I am to be there, to use the executive orders to legislate in this country. As it has in the past, we generally do pretty well in the post-debate polling. Of course, they say that's all rigged. If we do well, it's been rigged. Of course, they always assume there were just a couple dozen people out there that knew about computers, and they were rigging those post-election polls. And all of a sudden, when the money started coming in, the volunteers started coming in, and all the campaign efforts, they've had to concede. They've had to concede that there's a few more. They don't think there's 3 dozen. Now they say there's at least 6 dozen of us out there. Actually, things are going very well, and it is a unique campaign. This is one campaign that is not organized from the top down. I mean, it is something that has allowed us to do something that is different than any other time in history, because the internet is new and the enthusiasm is different, the conditions are different. We're in desperate need of changing our direction, and so many of you have joined this effort spontaneously and have come together and have come to us. And this to me is just miraculous in many ways. And some people say that I've cured their apathy, and I'm pleased that I have if I did. But you all have cured my skepticism. I was always a skeptic, but thank you. I was very reluctant. I just didn't know how many of you would be out there. I didn't know whether there was a truly large remnant or small remnant. Nobody can count the remnant. We were finding out that it's very large. But the other thing that is so exciting is that the young people are volunteering and joining us, and are just very excited, you know, about this issue, and they're very principled. And so often when the young people come, I'll say, "Why did you join our campaign?" They say, "We like your position on the Constitution." That is really encouraging. Yeah. And doing what we're supposed to do in running a campaign, that is more television ads and more organization, more direct mail and radio ads, and we're into that already. Time is getting short. The early primaries are coming up. This is a very important state, and a good showing here will make a big difference. It isn't quite like the other campaigns. It's not like make and break. You know, if I don't come in first or second, believe me, it's not over. We just have to do well. We have to keep up the momentum. We have to keep growing. Our numbers have to be there, because when they hear the message and realize how the message solves so many of our problems, our numbers keep growing, and there's certainly a lot of need. What I really am pleased with are the individuals that come to our groups. We have a lot of Republicans, a lot of former Republicans. They had been there and they got disgusted and they dropped out. So we have Republicans who are the true conservatives and wanted limited government and are unhappy with what they've gotten. Those who have dropped out 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 years ago, they're coming back in and looking at this and joining us. And then again, there are a lot of independents, people who just didn't join parties. There are some independents that are enthusiastic now. And there are some who have never been involved in politics, never once. And every once in a while somebody will come up, I'm 40 years old, never been involved, and I'm 60 years old, I've never been involved, and they're joining. And guess what? We have a lot of Democrats joining us as well, and coming over. We're excited about that. And we have Green Party people who have come. They come up and they say, I'm a member of the Green Party, but I like what you're saying and like what you're doing. And, you know, every once in a while we get a few anarchists in the crowd too, so we welcome everybody.